And that, guys, is our rabbit. Isn't he adorable? He looks fantastic. Those cheeks are just one of the most adorable things ever. It's perfect for Easter. Perfect to welcome a new baby. Cute little bottom.
And if you'd like to see how I made this cheeky rabbit, stick around. Another quirky project by Billy50 Designs.
First up, I'm going to start with the ears. So one pink one on top of one white one. One pink one on top of one white one. I'm going to pin those together, and then I'm going to stitch from here all the way around to here. Now let's turn these in the right way. And there we have our ears. Now we'll move to the head. There are 4 pieces for the head. This is an internal piece, so this is the front, the internal piece, and then that'll be the outside, the back. So what we want to do first is where the line is marked on the internal piece, we want to cut that snip that open. What we're going to do first of all is we're going to have the face, the front of the face, right sides up. And then we're going to take the ears. Our ear placements are marked here. So we're going to take, we want the pink side facing down. So like that. I'm going to match up. I'm going to match up where that ear goes. And pop a pin in there. And then the other one, it's easier to line them up this way. Make sure they're in the right spot. And before you sew them, you might want to just double check. If you feel like anything's got to be moved, move it now. I'm just going to pop that one over a tiny bit more. That's better. I don't want lopsided ears. Now I'm just going to run a line of stitching just here and here to hold them on so I can remove those pins. I'm going to take those pins out. So now you can see that there's our bunny rabbit with the pink on the inside and the white on the outside. Fold them back down. Now we want to make sure that we're not going to sew over these. So I'm just going to pop a little pin in there. Keep them out of the way. Just like that. is putting these two right sides together. So we're just going to make the back, and we're going to stitch from here to here, and then we're going to leave a big gap, and then we're going to stitch here.
Now we have that sewn together, you'll see we have the hole there that we will use to put the neck in there later on. We'll show you how to do that after. So now we're going to take our front piece with our ears attached, and I'm going to lie our back piece on top, face down, just like this. Later on, we'll put the anchor piece over the top, but I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So let's just get pinning together. Once we have that all pinned together, we just take it to the machine and we stitch all the way around the edge using a 1 centimetre seam allowance from here back to here. We don't need to leave any gaps. Now take the anchor piece and place it over the top. Just like we did before, we're going to pin it in place and stitch all the way around the edge. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and turn the head right side out. You'll kind of be double turning because you're turning, first you're using the anchor point, which will end up being in the middle of the outer pieces. So you're going to turn that through, and then you'll probably find that you've still got the back one to do. So just go ahead until the whole rabbit head is turned the right way through. Okay, you can take the pins out of the ears. Now, this is where the secret is revealed. When we have a look inside, you'll see that there are 2 areas for stuffing. So in front of the anchor piece and behind the anchor piece. Just have a look in there. You can see I've got both. So what we'll be doing first is stuffing the front section, and then we will be installing the eyes and the nose and everything else, and we'll be anchoring all those stitches to that middle piece. Then we'll stuff the back and we'll attach it to the body. Sounds complicated, but it's actually quite easy. Okay, let's move on.
The arms are very easy. We're going to leave a small gap here on both arms for stuffing later. We need it open for stuffing, not to actually turn them through, because we can turn them through here, but we need it for stuffing. So from here to here, here, all the way around to here, and do that on both arms. Now, before I turn these out the right way, I'm just going to snip in here where the thumb is. And I'm going to do some small snips just all the way around, just to release any tension on the fabric, so that'll help it sit nice when we turn it the other way around. Okay, now we can turn those in the right way. And now we have our arms, and you'll see that on the underside I have a space left open for stuffing later on.
Now let's move on to the leg. We'll put 2 pieces right sides together, just like we did for the arms. You'll notice that we do have the foot pads here, but we're going to be using them in the next step. So what we want to do here is sew across the top of the foot, all the way up the leg, and then from the top of the leg down to the mark that you had on your pattern that you've transferred onto your fabric. This section under here for the foot pads we will be doing later on. So let's take this to the machine and sew from here to here and from here to here, and do that for both legs. Okay, I forgot to say, make sure you leave the opening in the back of the leg for stuffing for later.
Okay, once we have those all sewn together, we're going to come back and we're going to take one foot and we are going to take 1 foot pad and we are going to put them right sides together and we're going to line them up. So I'm going to start pinning, so I'll put one in the center there and you'll see we can line that up. And if you've started and stopped stitching in the right place, you'll see that they actually match perfectly. Or you might have a bit of wiggle room, whichever. If you need to undo a couple of stitches, undo a couple of stitches. All right. And now we're just going to... Now, it may look like the top is smaller. It's designed that way because it gives it a bit of shape later. So just stretch that over. Stretch it all the way. Pin it around. Now we can take our legs to the machine and stitch around. The easiest way to do this is to stitch in that direction up to there. So stitch that way and then turn around, stitch all the way around and stitch up to there. I just find facing forward, going in, you can get right up to there. Because we don't want to actually sew across the back here. We want to keep that, there's a seam going this way already. So we want to keep in line with that seam. That's the easiest way to explain it. Now we can turn these in the right way. There's our beautiful legs. Okay, now we're going to put some things together. So, using our marks for our arm and leg placement that have been put on your pattern piece, we're going to place our arms and legs. We want to make sure that our thumbs are pointing up. And then once we've got our feet sitting in the right direction, we're going to flip them over like that. And then using our marks, we will pin them in place. Move them out of the way. And then our arms. Now, before we do sew anything further, we're going to make sure we do have a hole for our stuffing for each of those limbs. And once you've got that, we'll take that to the machine and we'll just do a quick stitch line over each of those, just to hold them in place while we're working. Okay, here's what he looks like. We'll put that aside. We'll get our back piece and our tail piece and we'll make up our tail first and sew it onto there before we put the two halves together. We're going to take a piece of thread and I'm going to tie a knot in one end. And then from the inside, we're just going to weave in and out all the way around. Once we've got it looking like a little shell cap, we'll put some stuffing in there. So we want to put a little bit first and then pull, and a little bit more. We want our tail to be quite soft and fluffy, so we don't need too much. And then I'm just going to sew around, making sure all those pieces are sticking up so we don't lose any bit, like that bit. Now we just sew through and around. And we're just tightening it up, making it secure. If you feel like you need more fluff in there, you can go ahead and do that now, but I think that will be just fine. And then I'm going to sew this to the back there. Now, if you want to pop some glue or something on there first, you can do that by all means, and that'll just give it a little bit of extra hold. But what I'm going to do is I am going to tie this off. So I'll finish this off, tie it in a knot so it doesn't come undone. I'm going to squish it down, chop that one off. Now I'm going to get my hot glue gun. Look how cool is this? Sometimes you just need to buy some tools. I love my little hot glue gun. So while we're at it, we can also, while we're waiting for this one to heat up, we can actually do exactly the same thing for our nose. There's a few different things we need to do with them, but okay, so again, for our nose, we're just going to go all the way around with our needle. I'm going to find a little bit of fluff and pop in there. Just to get that started. Pull it a bit tight. Put some more in there. And put a bit more. Just keep filling it until you're happy with the way it feels. I like mine to be quite a cute, flat, fat button nose. So I've got quite a bit in there. Okay, and now I am going to go around and through. few times like this. We're going to wrap it around. Now, just be sure you're happy with the size of that nose. Let's see. This one's a little bit smaller, so we can make it a little bit fatter if we want to. Now, unlike the other one, I am not going to tie this one off. I'm not going to cut it off. So I'll just tie a knot. But I'm going to leave the thread attached for the nose. And pop that aside. Okay, you want his bottom, his little fluffy butt, to be close to the edge, but you want to make sure you're leaving your centimetre seam allowance from where the bottom of your tail is. And then I'm going to get some hot glue. Make sure you don't burn yourself. And I'm going to pop that on there. Now that's stuck there for placement, you'll see. But this is still going to be hand stitched. Now I'm going to hand stitch it on. So it just gives it a little bit of extra hold. Then I find my white cotton again. And tie a knot in the end. So now from this side, I am going to go through, not where the glue is, but around the edge of the actual tail. And now I'm just going to go in and out. Just to secure that tail down. You can just continue stitching that all the way around and I'll meet you back here. Now I've got that all sewn on there. It's all nice and secure. Doesn't look like it's glued on, but it's glued on as well for extra safety. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to Macarena his arms and legs together into a little pile. And then I'm going to place this over the top. And then I'm going to pin it or clip it maybe. Let's clip it. Go around and clip it to hold all those pieces together. If you have got clips, this is a good time to use them. Now there will be a little bit of pulling and pulling, prodding and pulling and prodding, stretching. Now just make sure that all of that is sitting inside because we don't want to catch that on any of the edges. So now I'm going to start just here. We're going to be pulling everything through the top of the neck here. So I'm going to put a couple of pins in here as well. So we're making a pass here. a little fabric pasty. Make sure nothing's curled over. And this side, squish it all back in. Okay, now once you've got enough pins in there to hold it all in place, you can take it to the machine and very carefully sew all the way around to there. Now I'm going to take my pins out. And then I'm going to do the awful job of trying to turn this through. There's one leg. Maybe I should have tried to get the arms first. What do you think? Flip the rest through. Woo. There we go. Hopefully our feet are facing the right way. Yes, they are. Okay. So now we have one gorgeous bunny body. A gorgeous bunny body and a bunny head. And now we need to stuff them, shape them, sculpt them, and stick the head on the actual body.
Are you enjoying this project so far? Take a break, have a cup of tea, drop us a comment down below. Now, while you're taking a break, make sure you hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more instructions.
So now we are up to putting all of this together. What we're going to need is upholstery thread to actually sew the features, just because it doesn't break. Upholstery thread, I've got 2 doll needles, 2 different sizes, just in case, depending on how much stuffing I put in there. I have my little nose that we made before. I have some embroidery floss, which I'm going to use to do his little eyebrows. And then for his eyes, I'm going to use, I'm using what we've got at home. I'm going to use these little beads. Now these are, let's see if they have a size on them. No, they don't. Anyway, they're tiny little bead. And they've got a little hole in one side. Let's see if I can get one out. Little bead. Okay, so I'm going to need 2 of those for the eyes. We're going to start with the head, and we're going to start stuffing the front of the head. And I say front because You know how we put that piece in there in the middle? Well, we can stuff in front of it and then we can stuff behind it. And we're using it as an anchor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff in the front of it, and then we are going to sew on the nose, the eyes, the eyebrows, and we're going to shape his chin. We want to make sure you can see. I'm going to hold this up so you can see. So here's the first layer. Here's the second layer. So we're going to go in there and we're going to start to stuff. Now remember, we really want to shape those cheeks as well. So just keep stuffing until you've got a nice shape. Remember, only stuffing the front, in front of the anchor point, not behind. Okay, so it's getting there, but it's still very soft. Compared to this one's quite hard. Keeping it hard will help keep its shape. So let's put some more in there. We want to make sure all this part up here is filled in nicely. Now, I'm not too concerned about the back side at the moment. I just want to make sure the front side is shaped correctly. Put some in there for the chin. So now you can see we're starting to get that shape that we want. All right. Just got two more little pieces here, I think. So that gives us the cheeky rabbit look that we're looking for. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with this part here and the nose. So we want to mark out where our nose is going to go. So we want to mark out where we think just below the center would be. So where's my ruler? So if that's the top of the cheeks, and you can see how it goes straight across there, we want to come down just a little bit like that. So just below the center. Now we're going to take our longest needle and our thread, and I am going to double it over as well. It will need to be quite long. I'm just going to tie a knot in the end. And now you'll see the magic of our anchor. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go from the back side. We're going to go through all the stuffing, and we're going to come out in that spot where we want the nose. Just like that. I'm going to pull it in, and then I'm going to, just beside it, I'm going to pull it back through, but this time I'm going to go through the anchor material. And now you know why it's called an anchor. So now you'll see when I start to pull this in, I'm starting to get a nose shape. So now I want to go back in again, but I'm using my anchor point material. So I'm getting that. I'm going to go back through where the nose is. And you'll see now when I pull it, I'm starting to get that nose shape. And I'm going to go through one more time. Back into my fabric, my anchor fabric. And then I'm going to go all the way down. I'm going to pull it down. And from here, I'm going to sew up. So where this chin part is, we want to bring we want to bring the thread up and over like this, and we're going to go back through that nose hole. So let's pull it tighter. But don't worry, you would be able to keep pulling it. So just pull it a little bit just to sort of squash everything. Go back into that hole. And again, into that anchor point. Then we're going to pull that through. And now we'll position our thread, make sure it's all nice and straight. And then we're going to pull it tighter. See? Now, depending on how much stuffing you've got and where, that looks about right. So pull that tight. I'm going to go back through into my anchor material. Make sure that thread is there. Pull it tight, and I might go one more time. Back into my anchor point. And now I'm going to pull it tight, and then I'm going to go in the back and I'm going to secure it off in the anchor point fabric, not the outer fabric. And you can see why now I'm using the upholstery thread, because it is very strong. All right. Now we can tie that off. Make sure you don't stitch through the back. And I'm going to put a couple of knots. Nice and tight, and I'm going to just trim them. So now we have our cute shape. Now I can start to massage the head a little bit if you want to change, if there's anything you need to stretch out. Okay. We're getting there. Okay, now we're going to do the nose. Now I left a long piece of thread on my nose, so I'm going to and now I'm going to put it through the center of that, again into my anchor fabric somewhere. How adorable is that? And I'm going to stitch around here. I'm going to put it through that nose. Now I am also going to use some hot glue. So I'm pulling that nice and tight. Stuck in there. I'm going to try one more just to really hold it on. Uh-oh. If that happens, it doesn't matter, you can just pull it back out. And I'm going to tie that off anywhere on the anchor fabric. So it keeps coming undone. I should have made it a bit longer, I think. So yes, it's a little bit fiddly, but oh, what did I do? It's a little bit fiddly, but the result is amazing. So and make sure you secure things properly, because you don't want them coming undone or coming loose later. It's the last thing we need. Okay, that's it. Now we have our nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, using my electric battery powered cordless hot glue gun. So now this is what we've got. Let's wait for our hot glue gun to heat up. All right, glue gun is all heated up, so I'm going to push that to the side as far as I can, and I'm going to put the nozzle just in there and give it a squirt and push the nose down. Now I'm not wanting to glue it so it's all coming out everywhere. I just want to hold it in there where it's been stitched. So another side and press, and now you'll find we've got quite a solid nose. Okay, our nose is on. Now we can go for our eyes. All right, so as I said, I'm using beads, and the reason I'm using beads is because they have these holes. Oop, can you see the hole? So I can put the thread through, and you won't see it when it pulls down, like this. I'm going to thread this through, and now I'm going to take quite a lot of thread. And now to do this, I'm going to, because we want to have these pieces of thread to be able to tie in a knot. So we're going to take one side of the thread while this is sitting on the table nicely. And if you need to use a reference, you can, that's okay. But I'm going to go, let's see, I want one here. And again, we're just going to thread it through into our anchor material. And then we're going to take this one and we're going to go back into that hole or as close as we can to our anchor point. I'm going to pull that through. And now you see I've got both pieces of my thread in the back. When I turn this over, stand up my little... So now, when I pull that down and tie it, you'll see I get that indented shape. Now, if you're not using upholstery thread, I suggest you do a couple of layers all the way through there. You can even, if you prefer, you can even have this doubled up. Oops. Let's see. All right. Now we can have that doubled up. Put that through there. Now, I can go into one spot with... Is that going to work? Yes. Okay, we'll just take that through into there, like that. Got my little eye sitting there. And now I can cut that off. And I can take this side. I'm going to take both pieces this time. They're even. Put them in there. And then again, we want to go back through close to where that same thread went last time. Into our anchor point, roughly in the same spot, because you want them to be close together if you're tying them. Oh, hang on to this one and pull them through. So now, there we are. We'll stand up his eye, give it a bit of a pull. So now we can tie it up. And I'm going to pull it tight. And then I'm going to tie another knot. And I'm going to do it again. And one more time. And now you'll see that I have my one eye in there. So cute. I think we'll go with the double stitching again. So thread our needle with quite a long piece of thread. Take our bead, put it onto the fabric, and then find the spot where we want the eye to go. Make sure we're going into our anchor fabric and not anything else. I'm just going to make sure I don't pull that all the way through, so cut that off. Back to these two. I'm going to hang on to that so I don't lose it. Whoop. And then in the space next to that little hole, I'm going to go back in there again into our anchor point. And then we have our eye in there. So just straighten that up. Pull it down, and there we have, his eyes are in. So we just tie this off. Now it is a bit of a waste of thread, but I like to be able to work with my thread without freaking out that I haven't got enough. So, all right. So there's my eyes. Now I'm just going to straighten them up. They look good. What do you think? Now we're going to take some embroidery floss and we're going to make his little eyebrows. So again with the long dowel needle, only need a single piece of thread, doesn't need to be doubled over or anything like that. But this time, in one end, I am going to tie a knot to stop it from coming through the fabric. Okay, now into the back, under there, through the anchor point, we're going to, now you can do it in exactly the same spot on the same angle if you like, or you can change his expression up. So I'm just going to put that there, pull that through. Now we don't want to squash the fabric with this one. We just want it to sit nice and flat. Like that. So I'm just going to put a stitch to hold that with a knot rather than cut it off and start again. But don't pull it too tight. I'm going to tie a small knot in there. And then going to move on to our other eyebrow. So back through our anchor point. Let's look how we've got this one here. So now we're going to go, we want this one, whoops. We want it to be slightly higher. And then we can just play with it. So let's go there. There you have it. Now, the good thing about embroidery floss is if you are unhappy with that, you take the needle off and then you can just pull that and it'll come back out. So there we go. So I'm just going to tie that off onto the anchor point. Again, remember not to pull it. We don't want to pull it so it's making a dent this time. We just want to make it flat. Cut that off. Put that back onto our little card. Keep it for another time. And now you'll see that our little face is done. So what we want to do now is we want to stuff the back of the head. So we can, now that that anchor point is all done, we don't need to touch it anymore. We just need to leave it. But we do want to put a little bit of stuffing in here just to make sure that you don't see all those holes and stretches and pulls. So just a tiny bit to round out the shape. A little bit into there. I like the cheeks really puffy, so. Now don't worry about this center part because the neck is going to go there. So we just want to round that out. Then we put in the stuffing on top of the anchor fabric. And that's it. Our head is done. That'll get sewn up onto the neck later. Now we can move on to the body. Now we are going to stuff our body, our arms and our legs, and then we are going to stitch up the openings, our stuffing openings in our legs and in our arms. So we want to stuff the arms, the legs, and the body. Let's get it done. So we have sewn up and stuffed, well, stuffed and sewn up our head and our body. So I just went around, stuffed it all up, and then just did a ladder stitch along the back here where each of the stuffing gaps were. And then I stuffed it right up to the top here, and then I just stitched around that to keep it closed, because we're finished that. So I want to make sure that all the stuffing stays in there, because the head will pop on there later. So now we need to shape our arms. So this is what we're going to do now. We're going to shape our fingers. We're going to shape our fingers, our wrist and our elbow, and then we're going to shape our toes. How good does that look? Now to do this, I'm going to be using a medium length dong needle, and I am going to be using my upholstery thread because I want to make sure that this is nice and strong and it doesn't break later. So let's start with a nice double. I'm going to tie a knot in the end, and then I'm going to tie another knot. Try and get it exactly on top. And then I'm going to cut off that excess. And we are going to start with the wrist. So as you can see, we want the wrist to be in a position where the wrist would normally be. So we need this part here and then just above the wrist. Now to do that, yes, they look different sizes right now, but this end here pulls in when you start doing the fingers. So we need to just, first of all, we want to go in and out the other side. Could even go a little bit lower. And I'm going to pull tight on that. And then I'm going to pull that across and go through one more time. And then I'm going to pull that tighter. And now I'm going to wrap this all the way around. Making sure the thread stays on top of each other. So it can be a little bit fiddly. There you go. Once you've got it, I'm going to wrap that around 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to push the needle through from one side to the other. And I'm going to tie that off. Now, if you're using regular cotton, I'd probably do it a few more times, but because this is upholstery thread, it's very, very strong and it won't break. Then I'm going to put my needle through here. Whoop. Bring it out over there. And cut that off. And there's our wrist. The elbow is very similar to the wrist, except we only wrap around one side. So we're not wrapping, we don't want the thread to go over the outside here. We only want it to be in that crease. So we measure halfway up. We put our thread in. Pull it nice and tight. Go back through. And one more time. I'm just going to tie that off. Now we have our elbow and our wrist done. And now we're going to work on our hand. Okay, now I'm going to place a straight pin. They're few and far between around here. Depending on how stumpy you want the hands, I'm just going to place 2 pins in there where I think those dents will be. And if you see on mine, it is approximately 1.5 inches or just less than. So again, we're going to get our upholstery thread. Now we're going to be doing all of these in one, so we're not going to be doing each finger individually, so make sure you've got enough thread. All right. All right. Now we're going to go in and try and come out at exactly the same spot on the other side. We can remove that pin. I'm going to loop around like this. Try and keep those threads together if you've got your threads doubled over, and go back in to the same hole. And then because we already have a hole on the other side, let's try and get it exactly in the same spot. And then we are going to pull. Again, from the inside. To the outside. Again, pulling nice and tight. And then from here, I'm going to go from the front to the back, or from the front to the inside of the hand. And then from the inside of the hand, I'm going to go across, so across like that. And then using the pin as a reference, I'm going to do exactly the same thing with this one. So then I'm going to just go through here, and on the inside of the hand, I'm going to use that to tie it off nice and tight. So there we have our first arm. How fabulous is that? Now for the feet, again, we're going to take 2 pins. All right, so we want our feet to be roughly here. Now I'm using my seam as a guide here, and I'm just spacing these pins out equally. Starting here, I'm going through the front. I'm going to go over it 3 times. Okay. Then I'm going to go across here, and where that pin is sticking out. Now the pin is sticking out further because we've pulled this in. This area here will be shorter than where that pin is, sticking out. So we want to go across to there where the pin reference is. Pull it tight. And then again, we want to go through, where is it? Here. We want to go through the same hole, but 3 times. Then I'm going to go across and go in there. Going to get this to the side. Going to tie that off. And that is our shaped foot and the back. So now we need to go ahead and repeat the same process, wrist, elbow, fingers on this arm, and then toes on this foot. Go ahead and do that and I'll meet you back here. Okay, there's our feet, our arms and hands. It's pretty adorable. And our head is stitched up. And our neck is closed. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a hole. This is going to be so funny because literally what we're going to do is just push that on like that. Just push it on into that hole. Now, where that hole is, that's where we're going to sew. So now all we need to do is go all the way around here and stitch that head on. And because of the placement, it may be a little bit more tricky, but let's try. Now what I am going to do is do a quick stitch all the way around, just like a basting stitch to hold it in place. And if you have a curved needle, this is a great time to use a curved needle. All right, now once I've got that basted on and we make sure it's all straight, then we can actually go around and do our stitches to secure it tightly all the way around. Now, yes, this is a bit fiddly and yes, it does take a little bit of time, but the result you get is just so good. So be patient, grab a cup of tea, sit in front of the telly, whatever you want to do with this one.
Thread the needle, tie a knot. Pick your fabric, soft or spot. Cut it out and stitch away. A cheeky rabbit's on its way. Cheeky rabbit hops so high, made with love, oh my, oh my. Stuff it fat, sew it tight, bring this bunny to the light. Ears are floppy, nose so sweet. Giant paws, such happy feet. toes. Look at how this bunny grows. Cheeky rabbit hops so high, made with love, oh my, oh my. Stuff it fat, sew it tight, bring this bunny to the light. Sew with care, take your time, every stitch a work divine. Soon you'll see with needle and thread a cheeky friend to hug in bed. Cheeky rabbit hops so high, sewn with love, it's no lie. Now it's done, oh what fun. Cheeky rabbit's number one. It's funny, it's number one. Cheeky rabbit hops so high, made with love, oh my, stuff it fat, sew it tight, bring this bunny to the light. And bread, cheeky rabbits so a hug in bed, a cheeky rabbit so a have fun. Cheeky rabbit's number one.
It's nice and secure. If you want to go around one more time, you can. Mine looks very secure, so I'm going to tie that off. Pull the tail through. And that, guys, is our rabbit. Isn't he adorable? He looks fantastic. He is quite large, so let's take a measure. I'm going to measure him on the back. So from the top of the head to the feet, he's 18 inches. And sitting from the ground, he's about roughly 10 inches. We've got 8 inches in those legs because they're huge. Those cheeks are just one of the most adorable things ever. It's perfect for Easter. Perfect to welcome a new baby. Cute little bottom. This has been another Billy 50 project. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Make sure you subscribe to my channel and like this page and hit the little bell so you'll be notified every time a new video is released.